Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. My name is Kat Huang. I am a teaching artist here at Art Prof, and I'm joined today by fellow teaching artist Deepti Menon. Today, we are going to do another Procreate draw along, and this time we will cover shading techniques. If you want to nerd out about art, Art Prof has everything you need, from tutorials to critiques to a community of fellow art nerds. And remember, you can also draw along with us in any media you feel comfortable using. We're using Procreate, but you can use whatever you want to use. And remember to post your masterpieces into the art alongs, Art Prof Discord. And also, if you guys are starting from scratch, have nothing on your canvas right now, we have reference photos in the link in the YouTube description below. So you guys have something to, just jump off of to start with. Deepti, do you want to explain what you're going to do today?
Yeah, so if you guys have seen our previous draw-alongs, I did this drawing in the pink of Kate Middleton on the stream I did with Jordan on the royal family like a week ago. So I'm using the sketch I did of Kate I'm going to do some cleaned up lines on top of it to get kind of like a cleaner outline sketch to work off of, and then I'm going to start shading, which is something that I never do, and I feel like I'm horrible at. So I'll be asking you a lot of questions, Kat. And yours is also from a previous stream, right?
Right. So I'm going to keep working on this character design that I did of Jordan McCracken Foster himself as a cowboy, but I will be sort of traditionally painting it, I guess. I will shade it in a realistic fashion and also explain my process while doing so for you guys. So let's just get to it and have some fun.
What is your kind of relationship with color and shading, Kat? Are you a fan? Are you like Lauren, where you love color?
I am not like Lauren. I like color. Color is fun. I enjoy working with it, but I feel like color is incredibly slow too, because not only do I have to worry about drawing, having things look proportionately right, having there be space and landscapes and whatever, adding color to that is just such an extra step, especially if you work in comics, that I tend to just avoid it altogether just to make it faster. But I still try to work with it. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say I relate to that because as an animator, I really don't have time to, dwell on color because I'm working on the like tens of thousands of frames per project. So if I gave the kind of detailing that you have even right now on your screen, Kat, to every single frame, you can imagine how long it would take for me to finish a project on my own. Maybe if I had a team working with me like at Pixar or Ghibli, but I don't. So I, again, like when I work for color, if you've seen like any of my music videos or anything, it's a very flat kind of bucket tool color. So shading is really not thought about very much. Maybe in a way my color choices are somewhat intuitive to shading, if that makes sense. But overall, I'm definitely not like Lauren. I don't drool at the idea of color. I'd rather avoid it if I could.
Right, same. But color is totally fun, and we do it once in a while, but just in general, our practice doesn't allow much room or time for color.
Definitely, yeah. I guess we're two people whose practices include a lot, like churning out a lot of stuff to create like a longer piece, and it's not so much dwelling on like one single image.
So the process I'm going to go through with this is I have these layers, as you can see, and I have this color layer, I have this line art layer, I have this multiply layer that has the shading, the shadows going on, and then now I will just, I guess, like select the colors and just paint on a new layer, if that makes sense.
Can you explain what a multiply layer is?
Yeah, sure. So layers have different modes, and you can click on the M here to see the modes. And there are a lot of different options here. I selected multiply, which is basically having the color on this current layer affect the layer below it, just making it darker in that certain tone of color, if that makes sense. So,
oh wow! So I click on the N. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Okay.
So I will give another example. How about I make a new layer? Wait, let me delete what I have currently on this layer. I have a very big file, so I'm working with very limited layers right now. So I'm going to on this layer. Hold on. Cut. Okay. So let's say I have a brown, right? I select a brown. I'm going to color something. I'm going to color Jordan's cheeks. Do you see that? Coloring Jordan's cheeks in.
Yeah.
Then I will change this mode. Well, right now it's N because it's normal. Sorry, it's not M, it's N. And then I will change it to multiply. So as you can see, it made it darker and also affected all the layers below it. But if I make it a little lighter, click the M and then reduce the opacity, it can kind of simulate like shading now, right?
I love this. It's interesting because you can do these like techniques in Photoshop, and even as a video editor, you can do it with like video layers to affect other video layers, but I've never done it on Procreate, and it makes sense when you're explaining it, but at first I was like, multiply, what the heck is that?
Yeah, so that's what I usually use to block in shadows. So as you can see here, this entire thing is a multiply layer, and that's what I use to put in the shadows.
That's so cool. It works so well because it really like brings out the color from the layers underneath. It doesn't like, it works kind of almost like how I would imagine like layering in watercolor does, where it illuminates things that are underneath it and works kind of like with the luminosity rather than like opacity or opaqueness.
Yeah. W315 Bird says, so is shading for character design different from other shading? No, not necessarily. I think it just depends on how you want to shade, like how you want to draw like your style, I guess. So as I sort of explained, I use this big multiply layer just to speed up the process to create the illusion of shadows. But other people have other processes. I don't know if Deepti, you have any different shading processes.
I mean, as I said, I'm not really very well versed in shading, but I think my process would probably be similar than yours to yours, where I would want to work on like big masses and nail down like large blocks of color and then go in and refine in this kind of like additive way. But I do think it's not so much, in my opinion, having to do with character design versus this versus that, but it's rather to do with the artist and their kind of their style. Would you agree with that maybe?
Yeah. Totally agree.
Do you work mostly in black and white for your comics, Kat?
Yes, I usually work black and white because you know what? It's faster and it's really all I need to communicate whatever story I'm telling. But I have done comics in color, and color can also be a great storytelling tool. Oh, Maria.
Also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maria Kilson says, do you think that the time limitations of your works influence your preferred styles? Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. So with our time limitations, we don't want to let people know that we're limited in time. We still want to do a good job and sort of make it seem easy, make it seem good and good quality. So yeah, our styles do change in order to fit the time limits we're given in order to create a good product. Deepti, do you have anything to add on that?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. If someone paid me like 2 years worth of salary to make an animated film, it would look very different, and it would probably have shading and color and all the, frills and nuts and bolts and everything. Whereas normally I'm working with like a month or 2 months. So yeah, deadlines and the medium that we work in. I mean, if I had 2 months to do a single illustration, it would look very different than if I had 2 months to do a 10-minute animation. So I think working in animated film definitely has some kind of restrictions that it places, and a lot of that comes down to like the details and the color. And just like you said, Kat, like regardless of how long it takes, you really want it to look good and look finished. So you really have to take into consideration like what all can you accomplish in that time frame so that it looks good and it looks finished, but it's not pushing the deadline or making you super stressed out.
Mm-hmm. Art is work. We have deadlines. It's not all fun and games.
It's not all fun and games. Okay, I want to move this a little bit.
Oh, Soy Tenli says, I am so impressed with people that can draw from imagination, even to the ability to add shadows. Yeah, I think, yeah, sometimes I surprise myself. I'm like, dang, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm actually doing it. Because especially considering my art journey ever since a child, like as a child, I was always in awe of people adding things just from their imagination, whether it be shading, whether it be character designs, any drawings, anything. And I think over the years, as you gain more practice, as you gain more experience, it comes more naturally to you. And you find that you will have the ability to do so. What about you, Deepti?
Definitely. I think I agree. Sometimes I think about how impressed my middle school self would have been with my current self. And that, like, I have to remind myself a lot of times about that because I do get like really disheartened sometimes with like my progress and like what I'm doing. And then I'm like, you know, this isn't like, I'm always going to see other people's work like yours or like Jordan's or anyone on the art prof team really that I admire all of us so much and be like, oh man, I really wish I could pull that off. But at the end of the day, I would have been very impressed if I saw this as like a 13-year-old. So I think everyone is always in awe of other people, but you gotta know that what you're doing is impressive too.
I think it's also a good note to just be like, love yourself, love your art, because, you know, every single artist is different and the way you draw is going to be very different from the next person. So yeah, you can be jealous and you can like be jealous over other people's artwork and say, oh my gosh, I'm never going to draw that way. But you know what? You are your own person. It's good to take some time to look at your own art and be like, heck yeah, I'm a good artist, you know?
Heck yeah, you are. Yeah, I think it's good to be inspired by other people, but comparing yourself is never productive, in my opinion. It's good to like be like, oh, that's awesome. I want to like reach that goal or like also be inspired by other people. But to be, I don't know, to be discouraged is more often the case. So I try not to compare myself. All right, I think I have my line work down. Do you think I'm ready to jump into the shading and color part of things?
Yeah.
I think it looks a lot cleaner. This is where it's at now, and this was where was at before.
You know, a lot of people, I've noticed a lot of people say that they like their sketch better than their line art. So what about you, Deepti? Do you feel that way, or do you think it has really changed from the sketch phase?
I think I like my sketch a lot better. I think also because I generally work in a sketchy way and I really like having the looseness of my brush marks. I don't really love this like this really clean line work, but I'm going to, you know, be open and explore and see what happens. And allow Kate Middleton's face to live. My thought right now, though, is I'm trying to figure out how, I think I'm going to really just be true to myself, though, and make her a little wacky in color. Like,
yes.
I don't know if I'm going to give, because she's already a little wacky, and I don't know if I want to give her normal skin tones or, oh, Angel says, love both y'all's styles. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Angel.
It is fun having us paired together because I think we do have really different styles. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, very different styles. Oh my gosh, I think this is the first time we're doing a draw along stream together. So that's going to be fun.
I think so. It is fun. I like working with like new people on the staff and like getting to share our tips and techniques, especially on Procreate, because I feel like I'm the Procreate noob.
I'm the Procreate noob.
Oh my god, it does not look like it.
I think it's because I'm treating it like I treat Photoshop, which I'm much more used to.
See, I'm used to Photoshop too, but not like this. I animate on Photoshop, so it's kind of completely different.
You know what? I've tried animating on Photoshop before, and it's been like a headache because there's so much to pay attention to, and I like do one thing wrong, and I feel like I affect everything, all the other frames because of it.
It's true. I don't animate like that. I animate on the video timeline, so every frame is like reset. So it's a kind of a headache, but I anyways draw like cell 2D animation where I draw each frame over and over again. And for backgrounds, I just use like a still. But the frame animation tool on Photoshop gives me a headache.
Do you have any animation like role models that you look up to who also use the Photoshop animation tool?
Ooh, I can't think of anyone I know. My friend, one of my best friends from school, Brenda Zaveri, she is like one of the most talented animators I know, and she uses Photoshop. But we have really different styles. Her style is like a lot cleaner, and she has a really lovely like commercial look. She used to be a Google Doodler, so that can give you like a sense. She's an illustrator as well, of like how lovely her style is. But so she uses it. I think she honestly was probably one of the people that taught me how to use it. But no, so like I only use it as like an efficiency type of thing. We did have a question earlier about like efficiency. And when I'm working on projects, it's sometimes just easier. I don't have the resources to animate on by hand and photograph every frame, and that just takes so long. And so when you're doing it digitally, you don't have to photograph everything because you have like instant replay. So when I'm doing music videos, I do it on Photoshop, but I like it because it gives me, it's like the closest way that I figured out to animate that feels like I'm still doing every frame on a piece of paper. So it's not my ideal, but most of my animation idols are people who draw on like paper in really like experimental ways. So yeah, Lisa H is asking, do you think about warm versus cool shadows? Kat, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I will think about them. And usually I do, yes, we usually do think about that. But right now I'm just focusing on getting rid of my line because I don't want to work with line right now. I want to make it a realistically shaded Cowboy Jordan. So I will focus on shadow and cool shadows and warm light later. But I think it's already gotten kind of that aspect. Like this darker red is a cooler tone than the brighter red. So that's a really good question. Yes, we will worry about that. What about you, Deepti? Are you worried about warm versus cool shadows and light?
I mean, I should be probably, but at the moment, I'm just trying to block in like flat blue to add to, and I really want to use the multiply tool you were talking about. But I think my like approach right now is to do like a bunch of blocked out colors for all the big masses, and then go in and shade on top of them and kind of work like that. But that's a good reminder. I think I will. Now remember to do warm and cool tones.
I think we both had the same answer. We were like, yeah, we'll worry about that. But right now we're blocking things in.
Yeah, of course. Warm and cool tones, of course. Deepti, what's the difference in process from what you're doing here in a sketch versus animation? This is a lot more laborious. I would never, ever, ever spend this much time on one image in animation. And also there's other elements that I would be worrying about, like background and movement. This is like, just overall, the sketch is just different. And I think I would work a lot more. There'd be a lot less line work, because for animation, if I was animating this, I would have to, on the next frame, redraw every single line here. So it just wouldn't be the quickest way to accomplish anything, unless, again, I was working on some project that gave me the amount of time. But generally, I don't do projects like that. So yeah, so I think I would be a lot slower if I worked like this. So I would just move a lot faster, I guess. That's the difference. How do you work with layers, Kat? Like, for everything you do you start a new layer? So I feel like I just work on the same layer, and then I really like kind of screw myself over.
I do the same thing you do, and that is work on the same layer and screw myself over later. But layers are great. Layers are wonderful. And actually, in like the professional commercial world, if you submit an illustration to a client and you don't have your layers separated, you're going to get a lot of negative feedback back. Because what if your client wants some particular part changed in your illustration? Well, if you merge all of your layers, you kind of lose all that information. And to fix that mistake basically becomes a lot harder and more laborious. So doing everything on a different layer is good.
Oh, wow. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, actually, I did work for a while in like tech company, illustration team, whatever. And I would receive illustrations from artists, and then the art director will be like, "Hey, can you change that flower from pink to yellow?" And then I would go into the PSD file, find the layer of that one particular flower, and just like change it real fast to yellow. But what if they were hundreds of flowers? And what if they were all merged to the grass background or something like that, right? Then I
Oh,
would have to
gosh.
individually pick out every flower and change the color. So in this case, having different layers does save a lot of time. But I'm not
That's
doing
true.
it for a client. So I'm just doing it for me and for art prof. So I'm not going to put it on different layers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because you are working, like you are handing things off in like a work environment. You might not be the only person who's working on that, especially if you're like a freelancer and your contract is up but the project isn't over, or like they're using the files for something else in the future. You want to make sure it's like the most editable version possible. Do you feel like you have, when you work for tech companies and stuff like that, you have creative freedom? Or could you make something that looks like this Jordan cowboy, or do you feel like pretty constrained by their wants and needs?
I would say it is constricting because you have to and ultimately do it for someone else. It is not for your own fulfillment. It is for you to get a paycheck so that you can pay rent and put bread on the table, right? So yeah, it is restricting in that sense. But there's always a silver lining to every single job you do. Even if you do a commission for someone else, I think you're still going to learn something from that.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Maria says, random question to all here. What's your favorite genre in books and movies? Ooh, Deepti, do you want to start?
Genre in books and movies, huh? I really like psychological thrillers. Although I can never sleep when I watch them. I'm watching the show I like things that make me. I feel like I lose focus a lot of times. So psychological thrillers, especially for like shows, they keep me invested and I want to keep watching. So I'm watching this show called The Undoing right now, which is on HBO, and I just started it today actually, and it's very it has me on the edge of my seat so far. So I'm quite enjoying that. What about you, Kat?
I love science fiction. I love science fiction books and books. I don't really like science fiction movies. Let me think about that for a second. I haven't watched too many movies recently because most of the movies I watch are animated films because, that's what I work in, that's what I love. I just end up consuming a lot of that. But yeah,
That's
I'd
a
say
genre.
yeah. Science fiction and also maybe slice of life when it comes to comics. It's kind of interesting because when it's books, I like science fiction. When it's comics, I like slice of life. When it's films, who knows? Maybe I'll find a particular genre in that medium that I like.
That's interesting. I like that. I like having a.
Oh wait, Deepti. I recently did a manga recommendation stream with Julie Bassett, and
Uh-huh.
there's one manga that's really good that you should check out. That's psychological, and it's called Liar Game. It's
Liar games.
yeah, Liar Game singular.
Liar game. Okay, I will definitely
Yeah.
want to look at that.
The premise is a woman receives $1 million and a note that says someone else she knows also received $1 million and they have to steal each other's money.
Whoa! What?
Yeah.
What is the point of them stealing each other's money?
Well, at the end of the game, you have to return your own 1 million. And whatever you stole, you get to keep.
Oh, but who is giving them like? If that was me, I would just be like, I don't care about this. I'm just gonna run away with this $1 million and like buy a private island. And like, why would you comply?
That's the big mystery of the comic. You have to
Oh, I have
read
to
it.
read it. Okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. I'm using your tool of like using the N. I am adding some highlights. So I'm doing soft light because the color I picked was like too much. But I'm using the soft light, whatever thing. and it's giving me the right amount of brightness that I want without being too aggressive.
Ooh, Darian Epps asks, I've been working on an idea for an animated series. Should I write a story first, or should I focus on the character design? Do you want to tackle the animated series question, Deepti?
Sure. Honestly, Jordan would be a great person to ask this question to. You should ask on the Discord and maybe tag him. But I think you should work definitely on both equally. I think both things are really important. I think for when you're pitching an animated series, you really want to have a solid world to pitch, and you want to know your characters and really know who these people are and what they're about, and be really sure of that, but also the world that they live in and why we care about those characters. And I think all of that comes kind of hand in hand. It really just depends on how you work. For me, I think sometimes it's easier to design a character once you have the basis of their background, their like story a little bit, and their history nailed down, because then you're able to pull from that to maybe give them wardrobe or give them a posture, like how would they walk. A businessman walks very differently than an 80-year-old hippie living in the middle of Nevada in the desert. Their skin is very different. Their diet is very different, which would affect their bodies and stuff. So I like working on story, and then I like doing character design. But I think at the end of the day, they both should have as much emphasis as possible. And Jordan is working on this really amazing animated series pitch, and it looks incredible, and it really illuminates the effort that goes into that, and it's definitely something that takes a very long time. So you should talk to Jordan about it. What about you, Kat? Do you have any thoughts on it?
I agree with everything Deepti said. I think you should also definitely talk to Jordan about it, because he's literally doing that right now. But it changes from person to person. For me, I need to have that story first. I can't do a character design unless I have a story, which is interesting for these character design streams that I've done with Jordan, because I've had to make a character design based on a person rather than a story. But, to each their own. If you design a really cool character and you're like, oh my gosh, this person is so cool, I want to create a whole universe that they exist in, then yeah, that's your first step. Character design would be your first step. It just depends from person to person.
Definitely, I think that's accurate. It is cool to like attempt to do such a thing, but sometimes people don't realize like how much work goes into pitching an animated show, and it really is like a lot of labor. So kudos to you for doing that. It'll probably be really worth the end result, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have like a little baby that you've created, a whole wide world. Kat, are you working on any fun projects right now that you can tell us about?
Ooh, I'm working on a comic about an antiques shop. Shop. Yeah, but we'll see if it gets off the ground or in some direction, because it's a lot of work, and I haven't done all the work just yet, so I can't really talk about it because it doesn't exist yet. But oh wait, our prof is asking, Kat, did you turn off the layers with your lines? That's a good question. So I did not. Let me show you my layers. As you can see, the line sketch, I should say, is still there. But what I'm doing is just adding a new layer and then selecting the colors beneath and just covering up the lines. Kind of like what you would do with a painting. Like you have a canvas, you have your pencil sketch, and then you cover it with oil paint, right? That's what I'm doing right now. I put on a new layer, I'm covering it with paint, with color. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Oh.
I was trying to be like chill about my shading, and I had like this really light first layer of shading over it because I had it on soft light, but I'm kind of like loving how ridiculous it looks to just have really intense highlights, especially when she's like a member of the royal family. It like kind of looks like Marie Antoinette with all her like makeup on her face.
I really like it when it's intense like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should just kind of like, oh, okay, that's a hard no.
I'm gonna play with the layer modes.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'm glad you showed this to me. Maybe I'll do this one. It's kind of a happy in between. Okay. Yeah, these layer modes are so fun. It also, like, I think it makes me a little less married to the decisions I make with color because I can manipulate them. Cat Art Prof is asking, so you won't add the lines back?
I won't, because as I said before, it will be like a realistic painting, so no lines, just tone.
Just tone.
Just tone.
No lines, just tone. Do you normally, when you're working on something like this without me and the art prof community, do you listen to music? Do you listen to a podcast? How do you prefer working?
Oh yeah, I absolutely listen to music or a podcast, especially when I'm inking my drawings. Inking is kind of mindless work because you've done all the thought, you've written everything now, and you've sketched everything. Now you just have to cover the sketch with ink.
Right.
And it gets quite mindless at times. So I do need some stimulation. So yeah, I listen to music. I also listen to podcasts. I've been listening to this one podcast that's called This Jungian Life. And it's basically a mental health podcast. It's very good. I highly recommend it.
Oh, that's interesting. It's funny because I've been listening to a podcast, but it's called Crime Junkies, and it's not, I don't think it's good for my mental health, but it's like, it's basically all these like murders and horrific things happening, like explained by these two women, and most of them are unsolved. So of course I like can't sleep at night. But I love it.
Mm.
It's fun. It's fun. I think I like it because I work such long hours and I need something to like keep me going, and a good murder will just, keep me awake and motivated to keep working because I have to know, is the man caught yet or is he still out there? And generally with this podcast, he's still out there. So
oh, I don't like that.
I like W315 calling, what does HRH stand for? Her Royal Highness Smurfette. I figured
Her Royal Highness.
I love that. She is a Smurfette. I did think of that, but like, of course. I had no kind of thought going into picking my colors, but I'm pretty happy with them, especially now that Smurfs are being brought into it.
Mm-hmm.
Darian says, well, I'm inspired. That's a good explanation, Deepti. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. And honestly, I'd never written a story before. I wouldn't know where to begin to write one. That's interesting. Kat, do you have any? You're the queen of comics and stories. What are your tips about writing a story?
My biggest tip on starting a story is finding that one hook that gets you interested in a bigger concept. So I had a comic named Mama Bruja, and it was about being a Mexican American and trying to come to terms with your roots and family and culture and stuff like that. But I didn't start there. I didn't start the story being like, I'm going to make a huge comic about identity and culture and everything. I didn't start like that. What I did start with was a swimming pool. I wanted a scene with a very particular swimming pool in Southern California, in San Diego, very sunny area, a swimming pool. And I thought, well, what if I branched out from that? Like, I can't just make a huge story about one image of a swimming pool. I need characters. I need a world to fill up this narrative. I need a world so that this swimming pool can exist there. And then I started to branch off into this larger story. So that's my tip on how to begin a story. As to how to write a story, I say just keep writing it over and over again until you get to a part where someone reads it and thinks it makes sense. I hope that helps.
I love that. That's so inspiring. I think like it's a really good idea to, I think with every story, knowing that there's some sort of like investment that needs to happen, whether that's in a conflict or in a character or in just a theme, it's always good to know that that is going to keep people invested in your story. So you want to figure out what that is. But a great way to do that is just to find one thing that, I like the idea of a swimming pool cat giving you the inspiration to create like a whole comic, because it's such a simple thing. I remember in college, there was this one project to create story that our teachers gave us that was, this is my animation class, that was, they just gave us 3 random postcards in a specific, like every single one of us just picked 3 postcards out of a bin, and we had to create a story based on those 3 postcards. And everyone, and like it was like we had to write like 3 pages or something, and we had 30 minutes to do it. And everyone created these really interesting stories, but it was so interesting to see like how inspired we could all get by something as simple as 3 postcards that kind of have nothing to do with each other. So it was just inspiring to sometimes feel like you feel stuck a lot, or at least I do, and you feel like, oh, like I don't even know where to begin. But really give yourself a overall thought process. And oh, Kat disappeared, but it's okay. It's just me right now. She is working on coming back. But what I was talking about was, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, when you're having a hard time thinking of a story, you can easily find a way. Hello again.
Hi, sorry, I was having technical difficulties.
It's okay, we missed you. I was just finishing my little spiel about like, it's hard sometimes to think that you have the capabilities to create a whole story from scratch and yada yada, but really you can find inspiration in a lot of things. You just kind of have to give yourself an in, and then your brain will do the rest, because you're all creative people. She's back, folks.
Super inspiring, Deepti.
You know how I am, Kat. I'm going to become a motivational speaker.
Yeah, I fully support this endeavor.
No, if anyone should be, it should be Alex Rowe.
True. Yes, very true. John Murph is asking, LOL, do you listen to music while you are doing art? Yes, listen to so much music. Oh my gosh, if you asked Jordan if he did, he would be like, Motown, 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 Motown. He loves Motown.
Jordan and I have very similar tastes in music. If you guys don't know this, I think this still exists. Art Prof, maybe you can tell us in the comments if this still exists, but we have a open Spotify playlist that like all of the staff have made playlists for. And I remember Jordan really liked my playlist, and I was like, yeah, I have Jordan's opinion. But yeah, I think our playlists I have a Bollywood playlist, guys, if anyone's looking to like broaden their horizons and go global. Bollywood music is bomb and so fun.
Oh my gosh. Deepti, have you watched Bajirao Mastani?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, you haven't seen that? It's such a big Bollywood film. I love it a lot.
I haven't watched it. Is it newer or is it older?
It's I'd say newer, but it's around like 4-ish years old now.
Yeah, I really don't watch a lot of the newer ones. I should. I'm trying to learn Hindi. If anyone in the Art Prof community wants to be my teacher. But I watch a lot of old ones. Oh, Trent is asking, has anyone ever done illustration for children? How do you get feedback for that? Kat, do you do children's illustration?
Ooh, I do not, but you know who does? Alex Rowe. Alex Rowe would be an excellent person to talk to about this. But as for how to get feedback on that, I would say talk to other people who have done children's book illustration. So just hit up Alex on the Discord, just tag him and ask him, hey, if you have any questions, just ask him there. I'm sure he'll respond. But yeah, I guess part of getting feedback is finding your own art community and finding the right art community. Because if you find like the oil painting side of the art community, that's very different from like the children's book illustration side of the art community, you know? And there's a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, you want to like, I do think that community in arts is really important, and finding your people is super important, but also my people might not be the right people for your people, Kat. Like they're very, you have to find the right people for what you're interested in, so for the children's book community, like, yeah, of course you have to find people who know children's books and can give you that feedback. I also am a huge fan of like using Instagram and making like messaging people. I mean, obviously don't be creepy and don't like keep messaging them if they're not responding, but I've definitely had like people from the art prof community or just people who like my work being like, hey, do you have any tips for this, this, and this? And if it's a, quick conversation that's not going to take me a year to explain, I'm happy to talk about things. And I feel like that goes for most artists. Like I feel excited about talking about things. W315 is asking me, Deepti, have you seen Dil Se? Oh my God, the dance on the train. Of course I've seen Dil Se. That's a classic. And the music in Dil Se is, I don't think I've added any of that in my Bollywood playlist, but yeah, the dance on the train is, Dil Se is this really iconic movie, and I believe the song, I'm gonna Google it right now, but I believe it's Chaya Chaya. It's from, yes, it's the song called Chaya Chaya, and you should watch, it's like a music video, but really it's just a scene from the film, because in most Bollywood films, the music is intertwined in the story. And they shoot it on a moving train, like actually, and it's in like the countryside, or just like in, I don't know if it's the countryside, but just in nature, and it's beautiful and it's completely insane because they're dancing on top of a train that's moving with like no precautions, because I think it was like the early 90s that they shot it. And it's gorgeous, and everyone should go watch Chaya Chaya from Dil Se and feel amazed, because it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Why did you watch that movie, Kat, the Bollywood one that you saw?
Bajirao Mastani. I actually watched it because of a class. I was taking a class on Indian art and history, and that film just came out the year I took that class. So the teacher was like, hey, if you want extra credit, go watch Bajirao Mastani. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go watch. And it's beautiful. It's so gorgeous. But there are parts to it that are serious, that are completely hilarious without meaning to be.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Like, there's a part where a guy's riding on a horse with hundreds of arrows raining down on him, and he just like whips out two swords and like spins them and somehow deflects all the arrows.
Bollywood does drama and like unnecessary just fluff and intensity in a way that I don't know any other cinema does, and it's kind of incredible. Janelle is asking, Kat, I've seen other artists wearing that black glove that you're wearing. What is it for?
So it's for blocking the skin contact of your hand while you're drawing on the iPad, because the iPad actually picks up on like skin. So that's why when you touch an iPad or you touch your phone screen, it registers. So, the iPad's normally pretty good. Like I could still not wear this glove and draw and still be okay. But once in a while, it still picks up like the skin of my hand, and to completely block it, I wear this glove. It's very cheap. You can get it online anywhere pretty much.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was like carpal tunnel or something.
No. So Tenley says Kat is wearing the glove because she is a diva. Yes, that's it.
Okay, I'm trying to like kind of overall darken the neck and chest, but I think I might need to, no.
Oh man, usually when I shade realistically like this, I just like shade and shade and shade until it gets somewhere. Right now I am not getting anywhere. So it's like, I'm kind of nervous showing people this, because basically I'm showing people how I'm like, I suck for a long time and then eventually I get good at like the last minute.
Oh my God, no, I think it's looking gorgeous. Don't say it sucks.
Thanks.
I'm very impressed. Also, like, you're talking to the girl who's making Kate Middleton look like a Smurf, so.
Oh, I was going to say this earlier. Did you know that the Smurfs were originally a Belgian comic? And do you know what Smurf is in French?
No.
It's Schtroumpf.
Wait, that was the original like naming of Smurf? Wait, what is it?
Yeah, it's Schtroumpf.
Is Schtroumpf?
Schtroumpf. I'm just gonna keep saying it louder until you get it.
Schtroumpf. Okay, Art Prof is asking, Kat, are you picking the colors from the painting to keep the color scheme cohesive?
Yeah, that, and also it's just a lot faster to pick a color from the canvas rather than inventing my own color. Like eventually I do invent my own colors, such as this like bright orange right here. I just like picked that, right? But other than that, I'm using colors on the canvas to make it cohesive and also just speed up the process.
Interesting. I want to add a little bit of like yellow to her face to tie in the hair, but I'm really bad at using like complementary colors in the same space, but let's just see what happens. Warm and cool shadows. I have to remember that.
I need to remember that.
Oh, I don't know if I like what I'm doing now.
I think this also goes to show how time-consuming color and shading is.
Yes, honestly, I was like, I don't know if you remember, but before we started the stream, I was like, I don't know if I can spend like the whole stream just working on this one. And I'm like, so, oh my God, Clara. Deep T, when will you color the other parts? Clara, I'm working on it. I'm trying to incorporate some shading because I was just doing color blocks. Which, okay, fine. If you must have me, if you must push me like this. I can't work like this, Clara.
Maybe that's Clara trying to push us to be faster. Okay, Mom, I'll try to be faster.
No, our mom is harassing us now. Art mom. Okay, the donut is lavender. See, now I'm like stressed. Did I even do this on it? Okay, we're good.
You know what's like really interesting about Jordan is that I have not drawn a lot of, I've not shaded, I've not painted a lot of people with a darker skin tone. And I think that just goes to show that I haven't drawn enough, I haven't painted enough, but also it's just not what I've been exposed to. Like in art school, or just in art institutions in general, very rarely do you get a figure model who is a Black person or is even a brown person. Usually you get a white model, and that's just what I have been used to painting because I keep seeing white figure models, so I'm very used to painting that. So painting this like different tone of skin is like a challenge for me.
And it's a skill in and of itself, like learning how light interacts with, I mean, I'm speaking kind of from like, I studied like live action filmmaking as well, and lighting for someone who's brown like myself or someone who's Black like Jordan, it's very different, like with different skin tones and your undertones, and it all works with light in really different ways, and that's something that needs to be taught more for sure, but just like isn't, which is not great.
Like, I'm doing this from imagination. I don't have a reference photo. That's my bad. I should have a reference photo for this. But like, I'm adding these pinks and I'm adding these like lights and darks, and I'm like, I'm not actually sure if this looks like real skin or if it feels quite plasticky at the moment.
I think it feels real, but also I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Kat, where I don't have a lot of experience just generally with colors. So Tainley says, I'm liking your development on the Kate caricature. Deepti wasn't sold on the original sketch, but now it's coming together. Well, thank you. I'm glad I
love
can
the original sketch.
Now.
Sorry, I was saying I love the original sketch. I don't know what Soy Tainley's saying.
Honestly, I loved the original sketch too, but I guess to each their own.
Yeah. Soy Tainley's response is also valid.
It is, and it's good to hear that people aren't sold on things that you are sold on personally. It humbles you.
Yeah. Our prof says, can't rest on your laurels, Deepti and Kat. Ha, 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 ha. Okay.
Gosh, Clara's going for blood.
Yeah.
She's bringing us down to earth. We're like having a jolly old time. She's like, no, don't you dare. Work on the background, Deepti. Okay, I need help, people. What should I make her dress, and what should I do for the background?
I think her original dress was pink, right?
Her dress in the thing is white.
Oh, dang it.
But maybe
Sorry.
I'll do a soft, like blushy pink. I kind of like that.
I was thinking like hot pink, like go all out or go
really?
home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why the hell not? Sure.
Yeah. Oh, Katrina says, Kat, from my very limited experience with live figure drawing, most of the models I've had are white and young. It'd be an interesting challenge for me to have an older person as a model. Yeah, I think that's also a good thing to point out, that age also plays a role in the kind of figure models you get.
Yeah. I found that I actually did get a ton of older figure models. Did you feel that you did, Kat?
I felt like I did get older figure models in the institution I went to, probably because old people are like, whatever, make money being a figure model. Like, why not? This is all for art anyways. So yeah, I've actually painted a lot of older people, but usually they're white. And very rarely do I get a different kind of body, because I've seen thin models and other thin models. I don't usually see a larger, fatter model.
Mm.
Ooh, Art Prof says, when I was in art school, there was a model who was 85. I loved drawing her. Oh, that would have been a cool experience.
Yeah, an 85-year-old, that's awesome. Also, just like, I think it's interesting because with figure modeling, a lot of it has to do with their poses as well. And I think like when you're working with a certain age demographic, they do poses that work with their body and what their body can do. So I like the idea of working with different figure models because they all kind of like provide different abilities, and I like that.
Ooh, I love it when a figure model brings in their own props.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do I just fill in a whole like layer, like just like for a background, if I just want to make the whole thing? Do I just drag it?
I think you can just drag the color from the top right.
Oh,
yay.
wow.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Ooh, Lisa H says, yes, I had the skin tones challenge today. I color everyone with my tones. Oh, interesting. What do you mean by my tones? Oh, yeah, your own skin tone. Is that what you mean, Lisa? Yeah, I feel like you inevitably draw yourself whenever you're drawing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I do that. Well, I always feel like inspired by like the weirdness. Like it sounds weird saying that because all my stuff looks so like wrinkly and warty and bumpy. But I do think like I'll exaggerate like flaws that I see in myself or like worries. Neil is saying, I recently watched a YouTuber complaining about old figure models. They said that it's not good for practice anatomy. Oh my goodness. I do not agree with that whatsoever. Do you have thoughts on that?
Oh, wait, sorry. Did you ask my thoughts?
Yeah, on not liking a older figure model.
Oh, I'm so disapproving of that comment.
Same.
Yeah, Neil, who was that person? I'm out for blood now. I'm going to go find this person and say my thoughts.
I mean, I think it's good to have variety. Like, you don't want to only do old bodies because you want to also understand what like a different body type would be. You want a good range. But I feel like the old bodies are so fun because they're so like wrinkly and they have so much weight and mass to it, and it moves like it just, yeah, I love drawing older bodies.
Yeah, and also to your point of not wanting to draw the same thing, I feel like people draw young people all the time. Like, I don't usually see a big age difference. It's usually like teens or younger adults. I don't usually see middle-aged people or older people at all. So I want to see more of that.
Absolutely. And I think if you're trying to create your own characters, it's nice to see, it's nice to like, I think it's good. For me, I feel like it's really useful to draw like an extreme of a body. Not saying that an old person has an extreme body, but like when you're at like 85, that's like one kind of end of the spectrum in life and like what your body will look like. And it's kind of cool to really exaggerate that and know like how your body, how skin can fold and how things can wrinkle with age, and then experiment with that. I love everything about that.
W315 Bird says, I remember having a very curvy fat model and I loved drawing her. She was very limber and did great poses. Whoa, I'm really excited to hear that. I feel like drawing a fatter body is really important because then you get to see how fat is carried on the body. Is that your cat?
Yeah, sorry. He's come to sniff at my painting. Please move. Excuse me. All right. Everyone say hello to our little, hello, this is Mirchi. He's well versed in the live stream community because he comes and crashes most live streams. John Murph is saying, I've drawn with live models before, but never painted from real life models. Would painting from a life have a different effect from drawing a picture? What are your thoughts on that, Kat?
I think it is very different because when drawing, you're trying to find form and shape. But with painting, you're trying to find form through color and tone and light and shadow. So I think painting, whether it be oil or acrylic or watercolor or even digital, is very important to do with live models. I think you should have some, try it once at least, have some experience in that.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like speed has a lot to do with it, just like in general when you're working from life and painting versus drawing. I think it's quicker sometimes to be fast when you're working in like charcoal or pencil, at least for me. But painting is just slower in general for me. Deep D, shouldn't the donut hole have the same color as the hair? Oh my God, you're absolutely right. But now that you've said that, I think it's kind of hilarious to have her just like missing her brain. Oh, I kind of love it. I love the weirdness of it.
You know, I feel like I love the weirdness, but I want that hole to be bigger because how small it is right now, it makes it feel like a mistake rather than.
You're right. I think the quicker thing to do right now will just be to make it the same color as the hair because I don't want to like obsess over that. But then if I have time, but there we go. For now she will have a brain.
See, this is what we mean by like time and deadlines and like quality of work. It's because we're short on time that we can't have Kate Middleton with a bigger hole in her head.
Exactly. But, you know, maybe on my free time, I will give Kate Middleton a big old hole in her head. But you're right. It also sometimes, I feel like what you just said, Kat, is like a great way of like talking about like getting good feedback because it's so true. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I love that idea. I'm just going to leave it. But sometimes you need someone to be like, well, it doesn't completely sell as it is right now. Like either go all the way or just like don't do it at all. And you're like, yeah.
Maria says, going to a more political side on this, it is great to normalize old age. People age, it is still a human body. If we're lucky to get there, all of our bodies. I totally agree. I think that older bodies should be celebrated because, you know, you've lived a long time. You have so much to tell. And part of that story is told through your body. And I think it's important to recognize and celebrate that.
Most definitely. I think that's one of the amazing things about drawing older bodies is because you really are, in a way, drawing their story and their life just on their body. It's amazing. And it's amazing to just think about everything that body has gone through.
And it's like also crazy nowadays that we're so obsessed with trying to reverse age, trying not to age, trying to keep our bodies youthful. And, you know, what's that called? Botox and everything, trying to get rid of your wrinkles. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if you want that and you have that. That's fine. I just feel like on the flip side, aging naturally is also something to be celebrated that we don't talk much about.
Yeah.
Angel says, I think it's pretty boring, cough mediocre, when artists only seek out one body type. I totally agree, Angel. And, you know, I see so many artists that get famous on Instagram by drawing like that, the pretty teen girl or the pretty teen boy, like over and over again. And it just like missed me with that. It's so boring.
Yeah, I think it's also the appeal, like people really it's kind of an issue that we have in like society of like that being what people really like looking at and it's desired, so it gets the most hits and stuff. But you know, Maria is saying sometimes artists forget that their work is key to representation. Definitely. I mean, we're making things that influence people and make people feel a certain way and tell stories, and there is a huge impact and responsibility that artists have. Would you agree with that, Kat?
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. And not only represent, but the stuff that we make is also very accessible. Like I say this like with a question. It's not always accessible, but you know, there's no language in art. There's no like you don't have to know English or a particular language to understand an image. And of course, images can also be understood in different cultures in different ways. But I think, I don't know, images in itself are a language that can be used to represent and appreciate different identities.
Definitely. It's interesting thinking about having power as an artist, because sometimes you forget that and then you're reminded and you're like, oh yes, I should, you know, especially when you get later on in your career, you're like, and people are looking at your stuff, you want to be aware to a certain extent.
Rachel Batra says, how do you shade like from imagination, especially for organic forms? I'd say you have to do a lot from life first and a lot of practice. And while doing this shading online, I feel like I still need more practice. So, you know, it's great if you can do something from imagination, but it's even better if you can find the proper resources and references to create a good image overall. Because you know what people will see at the end? The end product. People won't know if it's from your imagination or from a reference. So sure, draw things from imagination if you can, if you want to. But also sense if it will end in a good image or not. I hope that makes sense. Deepti, does that make sense?
I thought it made sense.
Okay, cool, thanks.
I think you've been dropping a lot of nuggets of wisdom, Kat. Janelle is asking, when creating a character design, do you think it's important to know the personality of your character before designing them? Do you think the character's personality should be a part of the design? I feel like I touched upon this a little bit earlier. Kat, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my answer to that is yes. It's so important to know the personality of your character when designing them, because you know what? People think design is just like, oh, what kind of clothes will they wear? Oh, what kind of hairstyle will they have? It is that, but it's also what kind of way do they hold themselves? Are they proud of themselves? Are they maybe more shy or something like that? All of that determines how they will look and how they will act. So character design isn't just what they wear, but it's also how they act, how they pose. That all translates visually into what kind of character they are.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You really want to know who a person is. I mean, like, you know, like, have you ever been to a party and looked at a person, like looked at a guy or looked at a girl, and just the way that they're dressed or the way that they're standing speaks volumes of like how confident they are in that room or what kind of a person they are. You can just be like, oh, I don't think we would get along. Or it's someone who just has a magnetic quality to them, and you think like, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you like want to go stand next to that person because they seem nice. Like, I think all of that has to do with like who they are as a person, not just like what they dress like. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you know that someone is really friendly and really kind, like I think a lot of Disney princesses have this kind of like big eyes that are really sparkly and bright. And I think that's because they're all these like, you know, like cheery little girls who like are perfect and are approachable and lovely. And then like even color scheme, like if someone's a little bit evil, a lot of times it's like darker colors, cooler tones sometimes, a lot of like neons. It can all be, all of those things about like personality and story and background can be influenced how just like the person looks. Mm. Rachel says, thank you for answering. Shading from imagination is kind of hard. So practice is the key, I guess. Yes, I would say that practice is the key. And I think practice and experimenting would be like my two big tips. Like definitely practicing and trying to learn as much as you can, but also don't be afraid to just kind of go a little crazy and try things out that you're interested in that you might not think would work, because who knows, they might work and you might discover something and figure out, you know, what really works for you as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys seen Deepti's Kate Middleton drawing? I feel like there's a lot of experimentation going on there that I think pays off in the end.
Definitely. And I think that if I hadn't experimented a lot earlier on in my career, I would never feel I would have never felt confident enough to create this version of our beloved Kate. But now I feel confident enough to be like, you know what? Yeah, this is Kate. This is my Kate. She's super cool. You know, I will say I was very skeptical about being able to do any kind of shading that I was happy with on this stream, because I'm just, you know, not really a shader, and I haven't done it in a while, and I was feeling kind of bummed about it. But I will say I'm quite happy, although I am realizing that I should watch that stream that I think Clara did with Jordan on fabrics, because I'm having a very hard time with this, with the fabric right now. But other than that, I'm kind of like stoked about little Her Royal Highness Smurfette.
Smurfette.
Her Royal Highness Smurfette Middleton. I was really nervous that I would get beheaded when we were doing the live stream, because I was like, these look so bad. But I think I've redeemed myself. Deepti, will you shade the donut? Oh my goodness. Can I not finish one thing?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. She is on my case today. Cannot work under this pressure. I take it back. I'm not enjoying the shading anymore.
I feel like mine feels really plasticky, and I just need more time. Dang, I did not realize how long I spent on one shaded painting.
Yours is like, I really am enjoying the path that yours has taken.
Thanks. I've enjoyed the path that yours has taken too. I really like that you made her dress pink. I think it really works.
Oh, thank you for the advice on that. I think that it was just what I needed. I would have never gone this neon if you had not encouraged me, but I'm glad I did.
Our prof is asking, Kat, do you think adding texture to the skin might make it feel less plastic? I think, yeah, but I think a lot of it has to do with color choice, because I want this to be in sort of like a desert, sunny, cowboy, Wild West kind of situation. And I don't think the colors match that just yet. I have to play around with it a little more to figure out how the colors are functioning. Warm shadows, warm light, cool light.
The donut is actually proving to be quite hard to shade. Darian is saying, what if you design a character that's based on yourself in a way, is that a good idea? I think working from like your own experience is always a good idea, because no one knows you better than you, and you can really pull out those details and that intimate understanding of a character that I don't think would work with someone else. But you also have to have the ability to be not biased. I think sometimes when you're working on a character based on yourself, it's easy to get like a little biased, and you're not able to maybe find flaws as easily, or you want things to be a certain way and you feel very married to a certain idea. So I think loosely basing it on yourself is a good idea, but also having some sort of distance is a good idea as well. What are your thoughts, Kat?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm glad that you added the distance aspect at the end, because I feel like more often than not, people accidentally create mini versions of themselves every time they create a character. I think it's just, you know, something you just fall into because as Deepti said, no one knows you better than you know yourself. And being aware of when you're making yourself and trying to go beyond that and making things that actually look like other people. Like for the longest time, I was designing characters who had a thin waist because I'm a relatively thin person. So everyone I drew ended up being thin. And, you know, it took my friend pointing it out to me for me to realize that I was doing that because I was just doing it unconsciously.
Yeah, I think that's why I think, you know, community and people that you trust is really important, because I think like the fact that it was your friend that pointed it out to you, it's probably someone that you trust, and maybe they're an artist too, or at least someone whose advice you seek out. But sometimes, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that like there are people whose advice I just do not take because I'm like, well, you don't know. So having like a good community of people who can give you really good feedback in a way that's, you know, critical and observative, but kind enough that you'll hear it is really important. And those people are different for everyone. So you have to find your crew.
Find your family.
Yeah, find your fam. Find your art fam. An art prof might be your art prof or your art fam.
We hope you were your art fam.
You guys are my art fam.
Oh, Deepti.
I mean, at least part of it. I feel like I trust art prof.
Oh, C. Cantrell is asking you, would zooming in on the donut make it easier to shade, perhaps?
It might. Actually, it's interesting because it looks a lot smaller on your screen, on the STREAMYARD screen, than it is for me. It was actually quite big for me, so I'm not really having too much of an issue. But now you guys can see it a little better.
You know what? I'm going to make Jordan's skin a little darker because that's what I think it looks like.
I don't want to be too laborious on the donut because I don't want that to really be the focus. So I might, now that I'm zoomed in, I might add some like details to the eyes. But where, see, this is where I get confused with layers. I'm like, which layer had eyes? I might add some of this purple in the eye just for kicks. To tie everything together. Huh, do I like that? I'm not very sure. Maria says, I have heard more than one artist say that the transition from doing fan art to get noticed to make original art that will not make them lose their followers is really hard. Huh, that's an interesting question. I've never done fan art before. Have you, Kat?
Oh yeah, I've done fan art before, but I didn't make myself known for it, and I consider that a blessing because I actually have friends who like started off with like Splatoon fan art, and then they tried to transition out of Splatoon, but once they started doing their own original work, their followers were after them, going like, we want more Splatoon, we followed you just for Splatoon, why aren't you making more Splatoon fan art? And really giving her a hard time over it.
What is Splatoon?
Oh, Splatoon is a kind of video game. Not very familiar with it myself, but that's what I know from it. But yeah, the transition is hard. But power on. If you keep making your own original work, eventually people will follow you for that, right?
Yeah, I think it's also just, it's not only for fan art, it's for when people really like you for one specific thing. Mm-hmm. And then you start doing something else. It's inevitable that people will get mad or want you to do things, or you'll lose a following, but you just got to stick with what you feel comfortable doing. Art Prof is saying, my daughter who's 11, she's very frustrated with her friends because she posts her original stuff, but her friends who post anime get all the attention. Yeah, sometimes it's hard also, I think, because it's a matter of what is relatable or cool, and sometimes posting things like fan art or anime can just get you more hits because more people know about it, whereas your personal art, people really have to be like invested in you as an artist and what you're trying to say, which hopefully people are, but sometimes it's harder, especially when you're that age. But I always say persevere and stick stick with it, because that's the kind of stuff that's really going to have an impact, I think, because it's the most honest.
Mm-hmm.
Maria is saying, sometimes they get stuck and get afraid of making original things when the fan art is a sure thing. Yeah, definitely. I think that, like, also sometimes it's a little bit more vulnerable to make your own stuff public when you could make fan art public, because fan art is kind of like, I don't want to use the word crutch, but it's kind of like you're working off of an idea that's maybe not yours, or off of a character that's maybe not yours. And when you're making your personal work, it's really, really vulnerable, and it's all you. So it can be hard.
That's a super good point, Deep D. Yeah, it's really vulnerable to put your own ideas out there. But how are you going to learn and grow? Are you going to just stay and make fan art of Splatoon all your life? Is that how you want to grow as an artist? Like, no judgment. That's what you want to do with the rest of your life. It's your life, right? But the only way to get better at something is to do it. So putting yourself out there, be brave.
And people, I mean, do make whole careers off of fan art and that kind of stuff. So there's no shame in doing that. But like you said, Kat, I think at the end of the day, it is a question of, like, what do you want out of your career? And what do you want to be known for? And what do you want people to see when they look at your work? If it's fan art, cool, then keep doing that. If it's not, maybe work towards getting there. Words of advice from Deep Menon.
Ryan is asking, I love the colors in these pieces. They both have two distinct feelings to them because of the color. Cats makes me feel relaxed and calm, while the colors with Deep D's really pops and is very bold. So cool. Cool.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I think that I had to find a way, even in color, to make my audience a little bit uncomfortable. And I think I did it. So thank you.
I feel like that's the whole goal of modern art, is just to make the viewer uncomfortable, or at least what I've noticed in a lot of modern art. Nothing wrong with that.
That might be true. I don't like to make people uncomfortable, but I do like to have somewhat of like a shock factor.
Shock factor.
You know, why not? Why not mess with people? If you're going to look at my work and have an opinion, then at least I'll give you something to have an opinion about.
Ryan says, do any of you have any plans for the holidays, or just for December and the new year? Do you want to start, Deepti? Do you have plans?
I don't really have plans. I'm hoping to see some family, but I'm just staying here and staying cozy and trying to be COVID-free. How about you, Kat?
Big mood. Same. I don't really have any plans. Can't really go out or do anything right now. But yeah, just chill and stay home. Maybe make more art.
Yeah, make that art. I think that's a great goal during our free time, is always to make as much art as possible. I always want to make art, and then I like blink and it's over.
Yeah.
So hopefully I will also. Art Prof is going to bake a Yule log with wow, why is that so hard to say? Yule log with meringue mushrooms. Say that 5 times fast. Yule log with meringue mushrooms. Yule log.
Isn't it Yuli? Am I? How do you pronounce that?
It's definitely not Yuli.
Dang it! Sorry.
I've never heard of it.
I'm tired right now.
I think it's Yule. Maybe I'm the one who's saying it wrong.
No, I think it's Yule. You're right. It's Yule, like Yuletide, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like in Harry Potter, they go to the Yule Ball.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought it was Yuli.
I like Yuli. It's cute. Clara says, you sprinkle cocoa on the meringue mushrooms. They look so real. I love how even when you're baking, Clara, you're creating a work of art. I'm gonna FaceTime my way into Clara's baking and be like, sprinkle the mushrooms. I'm gonna like demand things for her as payback for the stress that I had on this stream.
You can be Gordon Ramsay.
I'm like actually stressed. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is so much. But it was exciting. This is why we love Prof Lieu. Never a moment dull. Never a moment to rest. I really love my Smurf lady. And I didn't do too much with the background because I just felt kind of nervous too, but maybe I'll just add some just some blocks of color to just give some sort of hint of an environment. It's hard because in the reference photo, you can see there's nothing really there. And
yeah. Well, that's not quite true. I think even in the reference photo, there's like the faint shadings of a curtain behind her, right?
That's true. You're right. Maybe I'll just kind of give it a little bit of body. Warning, Mr. Mirchi is incoming. The cat is approaching. The cat is approaching. It's also interesting because I use the same brush for all of this, including the black line work, which I wasn't expecting to do. I'm kind of realizing I don't love for this moment. So
I also use the same brush for line art and shading.
Oh, nice. Cool. Go us. Look at us being so in sync. Oh, wow. No. Okay, I'm just going to give it a really just nice kind of textural something.
This is definitely something I want to keep working on. I feel like it doesn't feel as natural as I wish it would be, but
I love it. I love I was going to say this earlier, but I really love the perspective you have going on. Like it would be so different if it was just like a head-on kind of, not mugshot, but like this kind of like portrait that I have with Kate Middleton. You know, it really gives it a lot of personality to have your character the way that it's positioned. Jordan should be honored to look like this.
I don't even know if this looks like Jordan. But thank you, Deepti. I think one of the strong points of this image is the point of view. I just feel like I need to struggle a little bit more with the shading until I get something I'm happy with.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just let the background be for now because I feel like I'm rushing through it and I'd like to maybe work on it and think about the background.
I love the blue. Sorry, I love how the blue pops.
Thank you. I added some of the pink into her cheeks and a little bit of the yellow in the skin too, which isn't showing up too well on the StreamYard, but like I think that helps tie it together. I'm so bad with color, but I think that hopefully this came together okay. I wanted to say that Kat and I will be in the Art Prof Discord in about 5 minutes, so please join us in the Art Alongs channel. The Discord invite link is in the description below. We'll be talking about the work. You guys can post your work there, and we'll have a little party, so please come join us. Please subscribe to the Art Prof YouTube channel. And we want to give a huge, huge thank you to all of our top Patreon supporters. We really, really could not do any of this without you. You keep Art Prof free and accessible to everyone. So thank you so much. This was so much fun. I'm really happy we got to do our first stream together, Kat. Thank you, Clara, for pushing both of us to do a good job. Be vigilant. Thank you, everyone, for joining and drawing along. We'll see you in the Discord.